Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Fuck J.
You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Number one in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
Welcome everybody to Tiger Claw Radio episode 236. This week we've got the spring cleaning promotion on Steam. Steam's finally got an awesome, fun promotion. Probably the best one since they did the coal mining thing back in Christmas 2011 or 12, whenever that was. Also, Steam brings the hammer down on adult-themed visual novels. And a spotlight on the Twisted Metal series. All that and more coming up. Right now, we're gonna listen to some tracks off of the Chips Equals Flipped compilation from Chiptunes Equals Win, which came out in March. And I don't know how I missed this, but this is an excellent compilation of chiptune music from Chiptunes Equals Win. Awesome stuff, and it's pay what you want. So go get yourself a copy right now. All right, guys, you're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Thanks for joining me. What a sound. That's Alcine. Alicine? I don't know, these artists and the way they spell their names. The name of that track is Can't Stop Us. It's the lead-off track from Chip Equals Flipped. And I gotta say, that smooth, like upbeat, razzy guitar over top of the Chip sound, it's like a... Man, I dig it. It's upbeat, it's fun, it's good stuff. Very, very good stuff. I want to go now to the van. We're going to listen to the van cast. Got quite a bit of stuff to go over this week. I discovered, as it turns out, the van casting this week was a bit more focused than it usually is. I felt like I had more things going on. And with that, let's go back. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Alright, so the latest piece of news is Steam is bringing the clamp down on their adult-themed games. And the only title that I've heard dropped that I recognize is Honey Pop. So if you got Honey Pop on Steam, first of all, being a puzzle game / dating sim, it's, from what I understand, reading the articles, it's already censored if you're buying it on Steam. And Valve issued a comment saying, Valve issued emails to the Honey Pop devs as well as several other devs of visual novel style games. Clean them up, or you're facing the game being removed from Steam. So, we'll have to see what happens. But if you don't own Honey Pop already and it's something you're interested in, it's going to vanish from the Steam market. People are saying you should get it from the Humble Bundle store, because the Humble Bundle version is not censored, and it was on sale for $250 last week. But that's a piece of news. I mean, those games are never really my cup of tea. But yeah, apparently Valve's bringing the hammer down, so keep your eyes peeled for that. It kind of seems to me the big hubbub about it is going to do nothing but shoot the sales through the roof, especially if it's facing deletion. And big-time Steam users love to have games that are removed from Steam. They love to have games nobody else can buy anymore. So, regardless of what the game is, here's an opportunity to do that, apparently, if you get on it in the next 2 weeks. Alright, I'm going to run to the grocery store. Continue this in a second. And just a few minutes later... Right, where was I? Just got out of the grocery store for a quick stop. Got a couple of bananas, a couple of apples. Good stuff. It's a shame that it was raining all weekend and now Monday morning it's nice and sunny out. It would have been nice. Well, I guess we had some sun yesterday, but it would have been nice to check out some yard sales and go game hunting. I haven't been game hunting in a little while now. I had that big successful trip with Hemrock, a while back. And then I did a few thrift store runs immediately after that where I got nothing. And that's been it for me. I haven't really gone game hunting in the wild in like a month or so. Which makes me feel like I'm wasting time, because I've only got but so much time where the original Xbox and PlayStation 2 games are really attainable and at this prime price where they're being dumped by normal game owners. So I want to go out and take advantage and get some more. Alright, that's really all I got for Monday morning. Just the Steam thing, and it's nice outside, and that's pretty much it. So let's do how I normally end these Vancasts, and that's if I was absolved of all responsibility and I was able to go back to my home and play games and do nothing but play games. What would I do? Well, I'll tell you what I do. I'd fire up my Atari, and here's why. Because on Twitter, over the past couple days, several of the Cartridge Club guys have gotten fired up exchanging scores in Atari games. And man, that is awesome. Because the problem with Atari is that if the score doesn't mean anything to you, then it's hard to play the games, right? That's one of the big problems when somebody who's young goes to play an Atari game, even a good one. They're like, what, you can't beat it? There's no way to beat this game? No, you get the score. And that's the game. Well, now we got people taking pictures of their CRTs. We're like, alright man, this is my score, see what you got. So the game that they've been playing is one I don't have. It's like Sub Hunt, Sub Wars, something like that. One of the Activision games. I believe Duke over at Cartridge Club mentioned that his score would have gotten an Activision patch. Activision used to give you these patches if you got over a certain threshold to take a picture of your TV, then they'd let you into their fan club and give you a patch. I don't have that game, but I do have another game they mentioned, Atlantis. It's an old favorite of mine. Now, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Duke, but it was either Duke or Mighty Q Dog, one of those guys. Posted a score of 80,000 plus on Atlantis. Now, I've had Atlantis for a long time, for the Atari 2600. My scoreboard, it's been a while since I played it, but my scoreboard spans 8 years. And my highest score was 45,000. I beat that score last night.
I sat down and played it, and I got about 48,000. So, again, that is my highest score in 8 years of owning this game. However, it's about half of what was achieved by the Cartridge Club. So, if I was absolved of all responsibility right now, I'd go home, hug my kids, make sure they were all right, and then I'd sit down and I'd play Atlantis, and I would train hard to be the best there is. Like no one ever was. Alright guys, I'll see you back in the studio.
More on the Steam versus Honey Pop feud on Tuesday's Vancast. We're going there now on Tiger Claw Radio.
It's Tuesday morning and the rain has returned. It rained all week last week. We got Sunday and Monday, a little sunshine, and here it is Tuesday, and it's raining again. I just hope it clears up by the weekend. I'd like to go to the thrift stores and check stuff out. Maybe a yard sale or two, if it's not too much to ask. It would be nice. So, I have this old laptop that I got in college, and I stopped using it. I bought a newer laptop that's smaller. Doesn't have the hard drive space, but it's more compact. A little bit more, even though it's underpowered, it seems to be able to do more just because it's manufactured, recently as opposed to 8 years ago. So I'm thinking about taking this old machine and I'm going to just nuke the hard drive and replace everything with Linux. Alright, I have a dedicated Linux machine again. I used to talk about Linux on the air here a lot, and I kind of stopped. And I stopped because I realized in my dual boot situation, more often than not, I was booting into Windows to play my games. But I don't know. Now we have a situation where it's old hardware, and I want to bring old hardware back to life. That's like the Linux bread and butter. That's one of the things Linux does very, very well. And on top of that, one of my favorite Linux content providers on YouTube took all his long... Hold on one second, I gotta sneeze. There, we better now? So this guy, Brian Lunduke, who I watched a lot on YouTube, I've been watching him for years. If you've been visiting TigerClawTV.com, posting his stuff a little bit over the past couple weeks. Oh, excuse me. He decided to, the way he describes it, put his long form content for Patreon subscribers only and replace it with little short clips. So basically he took his entire podcast and put it behind a paywall, which is a major blow in my opinion. Because I liked watching it. I liked watching his stuff. And now it's no longer available unless I pay a subscription fee. And I think this is a guy who's worth supporting on Patreon. But I don't know. It's a different thing, I think, when you're doing it, because his main line content is now what you're trying to unlock, versus it used to be, okay, well, you subscribe on Patreon, then you would get access to a Q&A and a few other like peripheral content things. So let's make this long story short. In terms of Linux content producers, a major player just folded up shop, and that's what we got. And I'm thinking about starting some type of single contained Linux program, Linux video series, because I like Linux and I like hearing about it, and I think it's fascinating. I think Linux is punk rock computing, right? Down with the man, and everything is wide and open, and ideals are super, super important in the Linux world. and oftentimes they clash with each other, you know, and people are building things together, and it's just a great I think it's a great part of computing. There's a lot of humanity in the Linux world, so I want to try and keep that alive, do what I can to keep that alive. So I'm not going to be going back into doing huge Linux tirades here on the air, because I'm aware the TCR audience doesn't care much for it, but I'll hopefully I'll be able to get something together to do on YouTube in the near future, so we'll see. Alright, so Linux aside, what have I been up to? I'm still playing Civilization quite a bit. I'm in the ending stages of a Civilization 3 game, Civ 3, which I've been playing on my new underpowered laptop. It doesn't have the power to play like any kind of modern game at all, but some of these old games like Civ 3, you can play that on anything. You know, if I set up DOSBox on my phone or whatever on my phone, I'm sure I could get that running on my phone. But so that's been fun, because that's a good game. Civ 2, still doing that. Still doing play by email with MROC. As a matter of fact, I got a turn in, or rather, Hemrock got his turn in, I believe, last night or early this morning. But I know it's on me, and I'm going to the gym after work, so I'll have to make sure and get that in before I go to sleep tonight. Alright, so that's pretty much all I got for this morning. If I were absolved of all responsibility and I were headed back home right now, once I got in, what would I play? You know, I think I would, I have an old cardboard box that's got all my Game Boy games in it. I think I'd pull that out and throw that over the bed. Start putting in Game Boy games. Play my old DMG. I'd love to get my hands on, I don't know what it's called, but there's a clone Game Boy that has an SD card slot and works off of a rechargeable battery. But apart from that, very much like an original Game Boy, with tactile buttons and a little screen that's backlit. And I think that would be super cool, because I don't like playing Game Boy Advance games on my phone. I want to play with real buttons, you know? And Game Boy Advance is a super cool system. Game Boy is a super cool system. And I would love to play those games again. I've been playing a little bit of Game Boy Advance in recent weeks at the gym. I just have my old SP has been in my gym bag, and I played some Shining Force, which is pretty awesome. But Shining Force is a bit of a tough one, because once you're in the middle of a battle, as far as I know, I mean, I'm still pretty new with the game. As far as I know, there's no way to save amidst the battle. You gotta be between battles, and you gotta go directly to the church. You can't save whenever you want to, which is a problem, you know, if you're just playing, if the only time you can play is in between things happening. So, other than that, it's a really cool game. So that's it. I'll see you guys back in the studio where it's not raining out like it is now.
Alright, you guys are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. We're going to go back to the Chips Equals Flipped chiptune compilation. You guys need to get copies of this. It's really, you know what, I gotta say though, for a chiptune compilation album, this is way more guitar and way less chiptune than I'm used to. But this next track is from DJ Cutman, who I'm partial to because I see this guy walking around at MagFest every year, or at least I did last year. And he's got a killer track on this album, a killer track. You guys are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Listen, guys, you know how it is. This is the part of the show I like to remind you guys that it's a Patreon-sponsored show, and I like to thank these guys because they're giving of their resources to make sure Tiger Claw Radio comes out every single week, no matter what. All I can offer these guys is some simple things. They get the show a couple days early, and I add their names to a hall of distinguished gentlemen to be read here on the air. They are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, Darabka, Six Health of Fury, and the Cartridge Brothers. Thank you guys very much for all your support. It's huge, especially in this time where it seems like small-time creators are losing support all over the place. Ad revenue, everyone's complaining about ad revenue, although it was never a problem for me because I never really collected any ad revenue from YouTube. But you guys supporting the shows that you listen to is a super important part of what's keeping small-time creators around right now. So thank you guys very much, and I truly hope you feel like you're getting your money's worth. All right, let's move on with the show now. Now, this next Vancast, it's all about game hunting. Hitting the bricks, getting out on the street, and finding those physical copies of the games. That, and a special sentimental ode to the Twisted Metal series. Stay tuned, you're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. It's the Vancast. We're looking at Wednesday morning. It looks like the sun's out, so we got some good weather again. Alright, so Steam and its feud with Honey Pop and adult-related visual novels continues. They seem to have backed down in this case. So Honey Pop gets to stay. And it's weird because there's a lot of that kind of content in from what I understand. I haven't actually sat down with Grand Theft Auto 5, but I'm told that's got a lot of that kind of content in it as well. And so does The Witcher 3, again, from what I understand. But those games never under the gun from Steam. So take that for as you will. It's I wish Steam would do something about... Oh, deer in the road. I wish Steam would do something about the games that are not games. The ones that are just quick asset flips made to cash in on achievements and things like that. It seems like that's a much more pressing matter in the overall health of the Steam library, the Steam platform. So we'll see. Maybe they'll pursue that instead. I don't know. Alright, so yesterday, I went game hunting. Oh, yeah. I made it out to a Goodwill, and a little used bookstore. Same couple of places I hit with Hemrock, like a month ago, or however long ago it was when we went game hunting. Now, the video of that day just went up this morning. I don't know what took me so long, but you can go check out my stuff from my Hemrock trip. And this time the stores weren't quite as populated. The Goodwill in particular was a very strange story. They've got a glass case, and that's where the games are. And you got to ask for help to get into the glass case. Now, when I went with Hemrock, we couldn't get help because we didn't have enough time and it was too busy. But there was a lot of stuff under that case. You had an Oblivion expansion, which I talk about quite frequently. I really wish I was able to take that home. There was some of the Grand Theft Auto games. San Andreas, I believe, was in there, which I don't have. That'd be nice to own. Kingdom Hearts. There were a couple Kingdom Hearts games. Big stack, lots of good stuff in it. This time there was like maybe a third of that, but there were still a couple things I would have taken. So I asked for help to get into the case, and the lady was like, "The lock is broken. We're not going to be able to get in there for a week." I didn't see that one coming. But there's a little used bookstore in the same strip mall, which I walked into, and I got a few things. Got some snowboarding games, and among them was SSX for the PS2, a classic. And I only remember playing that one time at a friend's house.
So I'm looking forward to digging into SSX. I got the original SSX, and I believe it's called SSX World Tour for the Xbox. I wanted SSX Tricky, but that was the one they didn't have. Oh well, what are you gonna do? What else did I get? I got Call of Duty World at War for the Wii, which is a weird choice, because these Call of Duty games, their multiplayer thrives. That's one of the things that's the big thing that got people to keep coming back year after year. And the Wii's multiplayer is shut down. On top of that, if you want to play a game like that on the Wii, it's going to be using the nunchuck, and I hated the nunchuck. I hated it with a red hot burning passion. The nunchuck was an absolute system killer for me. It was the worst controller design. Whenever I used the nunchuck, the few handful of times I tried to get into games with it, I would take the Wii controller and then I would take the nunchuck and I would hold them together and try and form something in my mind that looked like a regular controller. So, what a disaster that was, in my opinion. It's a shame because we had some good games on it. Alright, so I got that. I got a couple other random old Call of Duty games. I don't have them in front of me, so I can't tell you exactly which ones, but it's like Finest Hour and Call of Duty 3, something like that. But here's the big thing that I got that I'm really excited about. I got Twisted Metal 2 for the PlayStation, the original PlayStation. And this is a black box, non-greatest hits edition of the game. Disc is in great shape. The instruction manual is there, although it's water damaged pretty badly. Twisted Metal 2 was such a huge game for me. It was so big. You gotta understand, going back to the original PlayStation, when we got our PlayStation in my house, the pack-in game, not the pack-in game, but the game we got with it that day was Final Fantasy VII. So it wasn't until we got Twisted Metal 2 shortly after that we really were able to dig in, my older brother and I, and play multiplayer, like split screen, couch multiplayer. So Twisted Metal 2 was really the first PlayStation era game that I was able to dig into in that way. And let me tell you, that was a historic day playing Twisted Metal 2 for the first time. One of the things I loved about the way it was set up is the first stage, they set it up so that there was like a street that went all the way around the outside. Ooh, hang on a second. Lots of fog. Fog is just billowing in over the street right now. Give me a second. See if I can cut through it. There's fog and there was deer in the road about 10 minutes ago, so that's not a very good combination. Alright, I think we're good. I think we're alright now. What was I saying? Yeah, Twisted Metal 2. So there's a road that goes all the way around the outside of the first stage. And I remember playing it and it giving me the impression that, well, it's like a racing game, right? We just drive around this street. But after a couple of minutes, I cut off the road and go to the inside where there's a big wide open space. And there was this moment where I went from the road to the open space where it really felt like it opened up and was like an open arena experience as opposed to, a traditional racetrack type environment. That was a shining moment in gaming history for me. And my older brother and I had a lot of hours into that game. The cars were all, really creative and varied. The cutscenes were really sweet, even though they were like animated comic book cutscenes. They were still really awesome. The following Christmas, I got the original Twisted Metal, which was also so good. And that also got tons of hours. Not quite as much as Twisted Metal 2, but amazing game. So I'm thrilled to have that back in my collection. Now I remember when Twisted Metal 3 came out, that's when things kind of went off the rails for me. There was kind of like a split in my house, because my older brother was down with Twisted Metal 3. He was like, yeah, okay. Not as good as the single track games, but 1 and 2, but he was down. I don't know. I played it for a while, just so I could play with my brother, but the physics were different. The cars felt really slippery. I don't know. It just felt really, really weird to me. And it was the first time I ever remember in gaming, the first experience I've ever had where a developing company changed hands and that had an impact on the video game, right? Twisted Metal 1 and 2 were developed by a company called Single Track, and they've got a couple other games out there like it as well. There's a game called Rogue Trip, which is also vehicular combat, and there's vehicular combat very much like Twisted Metal 2, although I've never played it. And there's another one where it's the same thing but with submarines, and I can't remember what it's called. I want to say Critical Depth, but I'd have to look that up. That one I only played once. I had a friend who bought it. He brought it over one time. That's the only time I ever got to play it. But it changed hands from Single Track to 989 Studios. And I don't know. Don't know, guys. So there was that, and then there was Twisted Metal 4, and Twisted Metal 4 I think was, for some reason I have a little bit more affection for Twisted Metal 4. Again, I didn't play it very much, so my memories aren't as detailed of that game, but my older brother played it all the way through, so he knew like the secrets, and he had special stages that were unlocked and stuff. I would like to get Twisted Metal 4 again as well. There was that other game, Twisted Metal Small Brawl, and I never got that one. I remember when it came out, and we never got around to it. I've heard it's not great. I would still get it if it were, the price was right. But that's Twisted Metal, man. Twisted Metal is a historic game franchise. A gaming franchise that does not get its due. It does not, right? When that PS3 game came out, it had some notoriety for a while, but we get Call of Duty every year, right? Where's the big community of people playing online in a Twisted Metal game? Where's Twisted Metal Online? That's what I want to know. Because that game is sweet, and I'm fired up to play it. This was after work yesterday that I got all these games. And I haven't had the chance to sit down with any of them. On top of the games, I also got a strategy guide for the original Ghost Recon. That was it was there when I was there last time and nobody bought it. I left it at the shop at the time, but I bought the game, and then I came home and played the game, and I was like, oh, I don't know how to get past the first mission. So it was $2. I went ahead and picked it up. So I'll sit down with Ghost Recon and do like a I guess it'd be more early 2000s. I'll do like a 2002 version of video gaming that evening, where I'll have the strategy guide open, sitting on the carpet in front of my TV. Oh, that'd be so good. That's what I need right now, guys. So, if I were, look, this whole thing where I wrap the Vancast off, and I say, what would I do if I were absolved of all responsibility and I could go play any game? I try and turn that into a bit sometimes. This time the answer is very simple. I'd go and play Twisted Metal 2. I'd fire it up. I'd make some space for... I don't think there was any memory card action with Twisted Metal 2. I seem to remember it all be password based, if I remember right, but I'm not sure about that. Because it was password based. All the progress was with passwords. Because in my older brother's copy, that he still has from when we originally got it, if you look in the back of the instruction manual, some games they have that section that says notes, right? And there's like a few blank pages. He actually used that to write the passwords, and he beat that game with every single character. So he's got every single password for every single level with every single character written in the back of that book. So I'm gonna have to get out my high score book, make a page for Twisted Metal 2, and be able to write down some passwords. And it's dominating my thoughts right now. I have to go put in a day of work. I don't even feel bad. I feel like it's a good day. I got up a little bit earlier than I normally do, but I'm wide awake and I'm feeling good. The weather's, it's foggy, but it's nice out. I got new games. I'm in a good mood, but I can't think of anything else but Twisted Metal 2 right now. It's the first thing I'm gonna do when I get home. All right, guys and gals, that's it for me. I'll see you.
Welcome back, everybody. I know this is a really heavy Vancast week, but I had a lot of stuff to go over. There's one more. I want you guys to stick with me. This is the Thursday night Vancast. Now, this time I went over the RuneScape closure. RuneScape getting ready to close down for good. Also, the end of a 10-hour Civilization 3 game. A little bit about the original Unreal, not too much, but that was an important point in history for me. And the big thing is where I'm standing right now with the Cartridge Club and their monthly game. Trying to get in on that the best I can. Listen close, you'll hear how it went down.
It's Thursday morning, and now we got sunshine. Sunshine, and it feels a little brisk, but I think it might just be me. Probably like 55 degrees, something like that. So how about RuneScape shutting down, guys? RuneScape's been around forever. I know the memes more than I know the actual game. I sat down with RuneScape once, I think in about 2006. I think that's about right. 2006, maybe 2007. And I didn't have a lot of stuff at the time, and I was using an old secondhand computer I got from a friend. And I think we had dial-up at that time, because I didn't have a job that needed the internet and I wasn't making a lot of money. So I checked out this game RuneScape. I thought maybe it was something that my dime store internet of the time could handle. And I remember only sitting down with it one time. I can't really remember if it worked or not, but I remember whatever the experience was, it wasn't worth a second look for me at the time. But this is a game that people have had. I mean, I wrote about this a little bit on the website, but people have been running characters in this game for 10 years or more. I can't imagine. It's proof in my mind that these MMOs, none of them are untouchable. None of them are untouchable. If you're playing an MMO, eventually it's going to go offline. So, I don't know if, I guess you have to understand from the very beginning that the whole experience is temporary, and it's not like a game like Super Mario Bros. 2 for the Nintendo where you can just put it back in and play it 20 years later. But, I guess if you know that going in and you're okay with it, then it's fine, but something about that doesn't really appeal to me. What else happened? I finished my Civilization 3 game last night. I got the diplomatic victory, which I've never done before. I had it was a game with eight civs in it, and I built the United Nations, and we did the vote, and I got picked. I honestly didn't know what was going to happen when I did the vote. I'd never got a diplomatic ending, so that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, but it's a game that ran 10 hours, more than 10 hours, and it does feel, I gotta be honest, it feels a little anticlimactic. But at the same time, it's nice to finally bring that to a close. I think it's quite a testament to how much content the Civ games provide. I mean, this was a 10-hour game, and it was, I feel like, okay, this is my first game since getting back into Civ. Now let's move on to the next one. Like after 10 hours, I'm just scratching the surface of what this game has to offer. So one thing about Civ 3 that I didn't realize was that if you buy the Civ 3 Complete on any of the digital distro platforms, Steam's got it, GOG's got it, Gamersgate has it. It comes with a bunch of mods. I didn't know this. If you go to the Civ content option, there's a lot of like mods that have been added to the commercial edition. It's really weird. So I started playing a game that jumps right to the modern era. So you start with the ability to make like soldiers and artillery guns and that sort of thing. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know if I'll play it out. I just played it for like a few minutes. But that was cool. Civ 3 is still is still a thing. That game regularly goes for like $1.50, and it's quite an amazing piece of work. Alright, speaking of games that are old but still great and provide lots of content, how about the original Unreal? Let's talk about this a little bit. So I made a post about the original Unreal going for free on GOG, and then it turned up for free on Steam. But I'm looking at the Steam version, and it's not clear to me if this is free for a while or free forever on Steam. I don't know, but if you don't have Unreal, the original Unreal, Unreal Gold, now's the chance to go get it. And I feel like, since it's gone for free, we should do some sort of Unreal co-op night or Unreal deathmatch night. I believe the original Unreal had deathmatch, right? I remember playing the bots match many, many times, so I know it supports some kind of deathmatch, but I don't know if it's functioning to the point where we can all get together and actually play it. But Unreal's a great game. It is. I couldn't finish it because it gets a little labyrinthian towards when you get later into the game. But it was a good atmospheric first-person shooter that I really appreciated. And also, it was the first time I ever saw it's the first time I ever saw those kinds of smooth 3D graphics. I don't know how else to describe it, but my older brother bought a computer in the late 90s. He bought a Gateway PC that had a Voodoo graphics card in it. So that was one of the pack-in pieces of software was the CD for Unreal. And it utilized the Voodoo 3 graphics card. So at the time, when we first fired up that computer, and that was the first thing we loaded on it, was Unreal. When I saw Unreal play for the first time, and it goes to that opening screen that the original version had, where it was zooming around the castle, it was a jaw-dropping moment. An absolute jaw-dropping moment that can't be described fully to a younger person who is going back in time and seeing Unreal for the first time now. Seeing the shiny textures and whatnot of that castle zooming around. Oh. And it was all downhill from there. Because I also remember the original Unreal, like, at the time to play games online, we would use GameSpy had a piece of software that we would use, and it would just populate a big master list of servers. And what you would do is you would program your GameSpy software to tell it exactly what games you had that it supported, and it would show you all the servers for those games. So for me, when I'd log on, I'd have a mixture of like Half-Life games, Quake games, and a couple of other things. Mostly Half-Life and Quake, and then Quake World was its own entity for some reason. There was also an entity for the original Unreal. So this told me that there was populated Unreal multiplayer servers, but they never once worked for me. Like, I didn't have Unreal Gold as a kid, I just had Unreal, and it didn't function the same way or something like that. I don't know. Long story short, Unreal is free. It's good. If you've never played it before, go get it. Even if you just get it and just take it a spin for a few minutes. Do that bots match, because, whew, it's good stuff. Alright, now's the thing I really wanted to get to. So I did a post on the website last week, or earlier this week, I think it was last week, about the Cartridge Club. The Cartridge Club is currently doing Halo Combat Evolved as their game. So I ordered a copy of Halo, and unfortunately, it's one of those things where the arrival date is like, well, it'll be here between like the 27th and then like the 5th of next month. So I don't think it's going to get here in time to actually play that old school Halo for the Cartridge Club. So this morning I put in Halo 2. Now, I've had my copy of Halo 2 for many years. It's a collector's edition in the metal tin that I got from Dalamar. You guys remember Dalamar from WastedSeconds.com? He used to host Tiger Claw Radio many years ago. I haven't talked to him in a very long time. But he sent me this copy of Halo 2. And he was like, I can't remember exactly what the circumstances were. I was ordering something else. We had some other deal cooked up. And he threw that in there. And he was like, I spilled beer on this, and I don't know if it plays, but you can have it. So I had this special edition metal tin copy of Halo 2 that smelled like cigarettes. And I've had it for many years now. And I finally, after all these years, pulled out the disc. I wiped it down. It's got some scratches on it, but it's not too bad. And I put it in and it plays just fine. So I played Halo 2 by myself on my original Xbox this morning. I played it for about an hour because I got up early enough to do that, which was a lot of fun. It really was. Halo's a good game. I had a lot of good memories with it, and it kind of sucks that I don't have anybody to really sit down and play split screen with, because that's where that game shined. I bought my original Xbox at a time when not everybody had one in my circle. So people would come over to my house to play the original Halo. So playing these games now, they kind of make me long for the old, the way multiplayer used to work, where you'd actually get together with people. So that made me feel a little bit wistful, but heck of a game. I find it very difficult to go to a console FPS these days. There's always controller issues. I get problems with my orientation, and I find it very difficult to zero in on the enemies and really shoot rounds off in the way that is effective. But for some reason this morning it seemed to work out, and that's one thing that Halo was always really good at. I remember that when Halo first came out, was that it felt more fluid than other FPSs at the time, because it wasn't the first console FPS, not by a long shot. I don't even think it was the first console FPS of its generation, but the controls felt really, really good. So that was cool. That was really cool. So good old Halo, man. You guys will have to check out the Cartridge Club when the next episode comes out, to hear how it goes with the whole Halo Combat Evolved thing. Alright, guys and gals, so this one's pretty easy to wrap up as well. If I could just go home and play video games, I'd go back to Halo. Because I got sucked into the story, man. I'd play Halo 2, and I'd wait for the original Halo to show up. You know what's dumb is I should have sat down with Halo Anniversary Edition for the Xbox 360, because I do have that. And the reason I didn't is because my Xbox 360 controller is a little wonky, and I also kind of wanted it. So I wanted to play something with the original Xbox controller, just because I kind of like the way that feels. So I'd go back and play Halo, and that would be my afternoon. And I could easily see, because I got sucked in. I was lucky that I got sucked into a couple of games this week. I would easily be able to sit down with that and not move for like 3+ hours, which is so very rare for me these days. Alright, gang. Back to the studio you go.
And here we are back in the studio on a Friday night, and as they say, it is down to you, and it is down to me. We're going to do the fail bag, ladies and gentlemen. This is the part of the show where we take advantage of the fact that it's a small outfit. This is, when you go out and watch YouTube, this is something I saw when I was watching Top Loaded Gaming. I think Desm left this comment where he was like, this is why small YouTubers are the best. And I 100% agree. Small content creators is where it's at, bros. And this is where we take advantage of the fact that I'm a small content creator and I can interact directly with you guys, and I can just make this as accessible as possible. So we're going to read some emails, some questions, comments. If you know who I am, you can send me an email and just mark it in the subject line so that I know it's to be read on the air. Otherwise, you can leave comments on tigerclawtv.com, leave them on thenextround.net, leave them on YouTube. If I find them, then I'll read them. So this one's from Hemrock, who's been saving the show, saving the late game show every single week for probably about a month now. And I am 100% grateful for these emails. So let's see what he's got to say. This week, he says, "Hey, CF, just want to give you a quick Nintendo Switch Retro Roundup for anyone out there who may have an interest. The Nintendo Switch has a few recent and upcoming retro/retro-inspired games. The Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2 were released back on the 22nd of May and include Mega Man 1 through 10. Whew. Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection will be released on the 29th of May, featuring 12 games. Ikaruga is also dropping on the 29th of May. Joe and Mac, Caveman Ninja will come out on the 31st of May. I've also been eyeing this game called Moonlighter, which appears to be a 16-bit version of Recettear and Item Tale. Moonlighter is set to hit Steam on the 29th of May and is supposedly headed to the Switch in a few months' time. I would be curious to know your thoughts on this game. What are your top 5 favorite up-and-coming YouTubers? Thanks, and keep rolling retro." All right, man, you got some good questions in here, but let's start with the Nintendo Switch and your retro roundup. I don't have a Switch, but I know that some of the folks who listen do. And I'm also aware that it is a very popular system, and I wouldn't poo-poo on somebody else who was really into it. So let's take a look at some of these releases. Mega Man Legacy Collection is bonkers. That is awesome. Is that all one software package where it's the Mega Man Legacy games and then all of the Mega Man games packaged together? It's got to be individual, right? Because that's pretty cool. I remember when they announced that. That sounded really neat. That all those Mega Man games were coming to the Switch. Because I like the Mega Man, especially those latest ones, 9 and 10, because those aren't true blue retro games. Those are digital distribution only games, meaning I haven't bought them 20 times over like I have, say, Super Mario Brothers 3. I got Mega Man 9 and 10 for the PS3, so I bought them once before, but I think I would be okay buying them again if I had a Nintendo Switch, that is. Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection is also equally bonkers, but that one's coming out on Steam, so that's where I'm going to be buying that one. Something about that, though, I'm waiting till it comes out. It's got to come out first and prove to me that it actually functions online, because we've all been burned one too many times by these games that are dependent on how they play online. They come out and they just don't work. We saw that with the Mortal Kombat collection. It came out on the Mortal Kombat Classic collection, where collection was spelled with a K. It came out and it was one of those games for Windows Live. It was like virtually unplayable online, and then it just disappeared from the market. It's gone. So, and this Street Fighter collection is going to be $40. So at that price point, especially since what they're giving you if you pre-order it is just a copy of Street Fighter 4, which I've already got. So yeah, no thanks. I'm just gonna wait till it comes out, make sure it's good, then I'll get it. Ikaruga is awesome. Here's the thing about Ikaruga, right? I've got Ikaruga on Steam. It's a great game, but that's one where I could see getting it on the Switch specifically as something special. Now, Retro Kaiser drew my attention to this when we were talking on the Google Hangout last week. He's got a Switch, and it wasn't Ikaruga, but some other game. Playing it on the Switch, on the tablet portion of the Switch, enables you to access Tate mode. And if you don't know what Tate mode is, that's when you play on the elongated screen, these games are meant to be played in the arcade. I have in the past taken my computer monitor and propped it up on the couch on its side so that I could play these games in Tate mode. Specifically with Ikaruga, I've done that before. So the Switch, because it's loose and portable and it's kind of just like a tablet, these Tate mode shooters are especially good to be played on them, and that's what I hear. So that makes Ikaruga one worth owning, as opposed to, say, like a Street Fighter game that you could get on any console. So that's worth mentioning. Joe and Mac Caveman Ninja, I don't know what that is. I'd have to look that up. All right, so then you asked about my Moonlighter, 16-bit version of Reciteer and Item Tale. Was it? I seem to remember that being called an Item Shop's Tale, but I didn't want to correct you because I'm not 100% on that. I'm going to look it up right now, though. Oh gosh, an item. Yeah, there it is. An Item Shop's Tale. So listen to this, Hemrock. I purchased that game on Steam on November the 25th, 2010. That means it's been in my Steam collection almost 8 years. 7.5 years. And I've never run it even once. Now, in its time, this was a beloved game. This was a game that people really dug. And I've had it forever, and I've never played it. The company that makes it released several games on Steam. That was one of, like, it wasn't necessarily a series, but there were a lot of games like it. Carpe Fulgur, I think, is the publisher, and they released Fortune Summoners. They released also a game called Chantalise, A Tale of Two Sisters. And I played Chantalise. I played that for a few hours. I thought that was really good. People tell me Reciteer is better, but looks like they did another one in 2015 called This Starry Midnight We Make. But I've never seen that one before. And it's nothing like the other ones at all. At all. It looks like a puzzle game mixed with some virtual novel elements. I don't know. We'll see. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's talk about the the up-and-coming YouTubers bit. I'm going to be straight up with you. I had to pause the video for a solid 10-15 minutes to just go through my subs and just to see who I wanted to put here. I think I've narrowed it down to a few names. I want to put a caveat that the Cartridge Brothers as a single entity would be included, but to give you specific channels, I've omitted the Cartridge Club in its entirety because I think there's more than 6 there, and I usually just check out whatever shows up on the Cartridge Club. But to name a few, what did you say? I think you listed a specific number. What was it? Top 5? Hang on, I'm losing it now. Yeah, top 5. And I put 5. Okay, so number 5 would be Second Breakfast. Second Breakfast is the Cartridge Club guy who I found over there, and he brings a special spit polish to that outfit. One of the things that's cool about the Cartridge Club is they all lean on each other. They're all promoting each other's things. It gives you a real sort of family feel when you're watching that content. And I think that's important because the tooth and nail, blood and guts of being a YouTuber isn't there. It's nice to see people just be like, we're friends and we're all going to support each other because that's what, that's the way this sort of thing is fun to do. So Second Breakfast, for one. Number 4 would be Gaming Palooza Empire. Gaming Palooza Empire is a very old channel. It's been around a long time. And he does a couple of different kinds of videos. He does port comparisons where there won't be any talking. It'll just be 2 ports of a game played in a split screen at the same point of the game. My favorite one of these that he did was the original Tomb Raider, which is a super important game to me. He did the Sega Saturn Tomb Raider right next to the PSX Tomb Raider. And I didn't know that the PlayStation graphics were just the tiniest bit smoother than the Sega Saturn, probably because it came out a little bit later. But it was neat to see them right next to each other and just hear the sounds of the gunfires one at a time, so you could compare them that closely. But I would say it's especially neat, like in a case like Tomb Raider, where those 2 ports are so very close together that's really the only way I could tell the difference is when they're in a split screen. So that's one thing Gaming Palooza Empire does. And he does these weird games for cats videos. Not games for people who own cats. Games for the cats themselves. Meaning you play the video, it'll be about 15 minutes long, and it's like a red dot jumping around on the screen. It's very weird. I guess you have to be a cat to appreciate it. But they do very well. They're like his most watched videos on his channel. It's really bizarre. And then once a week, he gets out the Atari 2600 and then just kind of rants and shows it off and checks it out. And that series I've been really digging Not a ton of like historical information about the games. It's clearly just, I bought this, let's check it out and take a look. This is what I know about it. But what he mentioned is he's funding his Atari videos using the ad revenue from his cat game videos, which I think is amazing. And my hat is off to Gaming Palooza Empire for doing that. Next we have Top Loaded Gaming. Top Loaded Gaming, Trevor from Top Loaded Gaming. I found out about this guy by watching Bithead 1000, and he does some unboxings, he does some rants. Just a guy, just a guy with a neat game room, who films himself, who talks, and when he talks about games, you know he knows what he's talking about. And I don't. All I can say is that when he's telling a story or opening a package, I don't feel like he's full of crap. So I that's the best way I can describe Top Loaded Gaming. You know what I mean? So I've been digging those videos. I have been, and I try and post him on TigerClawTV.com to put him out there to my meager subs. But he's a guy like Papa Pete. Papa Pete should have been on this list. He's another one who you can tell his videos are better than his subscriber count. Do you know what I mean? One of those channels where it's like, this guy should have more subs than he has. So that's Top Loaded Gaming. He does a really good job. Then we come to number 2 of 5 is Bithead 1000. He should be number 1, I think. Bithead 1000 is my favorite, probably one of my... I almost said he's my favorite YouTuber ever. I don't know about that, but Bithead 1000 is huge in my book, especially right now. And I went back and started watching his entire backlog, and I guess I got a ways to go yet, but at this point, I have definitely watched like 50, 60 hours of Bithead 1000 doing his thing, and that's pretty awesome. The number 1 up-and-coming YouTuber that I'm into right now is a guy called Nakey Jakey, who does these essay-type videos where it's all scripted, but when he talks, it's really flows really natural, and he's a really funny guy. He's got a natural wit to him that makes his points sound really interesting and easy to swallow. But then he also is pretty good at analyzing things about games. Like he did a great video about video game loading screens and creative things that companies have done with the loading screens. Another one about title screens that was really good. And he did a trilogy about Halo, where he was really passionate about the Halo games. Those are really important games to him. So he just talked about those, and those really sold me on Halo, which was really cool because I saw those, and then I figured out that Halo was the Cartridge Club game, and then I ordered a copy of Halo. So my hat's off to the Cartridge Club and Nakey Jakey for making that happen. He's got good stuff. His videos don't come out super fast, which in today's YouTube can be frustrating, but he is blowing up. You're looking at I think he's at like 500,000 subs now, and he was probably like 300,000 when I found him, not but like a month ago. So that guy is getting huge fast. So Nakey Jakey, check him out. And Brian Lunduke has been omitted from this list. He was my favorite YouTuber. He was probably my all-time favorite YouTuber until about 2 weeks ago, where he would do these long podcasts. They were about an hour long, where he'd talk in a Google Hangout with a friend of his, and they would go over Linux stuff, and he had the Linux Thursday, and then he would do live talks. He did a lot of stuff that was like 40 plus minutes, and then one day he was like, guess what, it's all going behind a paywall. And it all went over exclusively to Patreon. Then a couple days later he turned off his comments, and then a couple days after that he turned off all the ratings. So I don't know. I hope it's working out for him, but that was a really awesome channel that kind of got run out of YouTube with pitchforks and torches. So my hat's off to Brian Lunduke. I hope it's working for you, buddy. Alrighty, so let's head over to YouTube. This is where most people choose to comment, is over on YouTube. And I'm looking at last week's podcast, and I got a few comments, so that's pretty sweet. The first one is from What's on My Shelf, and he writes, this is a good one. For someone so fond of Atari, why don't you have a show called Talkin' Atari? Talkin' Nintendo is nice and all, but there are 1,001 derps out there talking about the Nintendo already. I know creativity is where passions lie, but you can talk but you can talk a mean length about the Atari. And I left him a comment. I wanted to respond to this because immediately because I thought that was such a good point. And what I told him was, yes, I have thought about doing Talk on Atari before, but the whole point about the Nintendo thing was, number one, just to get some content rolling. The Nintendo is like a hotly watched topic, so I wanted to have games that I knew about and had a history with, because I've been playing Nintendo games when I was really little, right? I could pick up Super Mario Brothers and tell you stories about it, and get those up. It wasn't so much about the Nintendo games. Talking Nintendo isn't quite so much about, let me teach you something about Super Mario Brothers. This is about me telling you what that game is to me, right? The whole point is something that you cannot find on Wikipedia. I want to do that for Atari, but I haven't had the Atari in my life quite as long, for one thing. For another thing, my Atari library is still growing pretty rapidly. You hear that? You know what that is? That's the sound of bubble wrap. That is a box with 5 Atari games in it that I'm going to open up probably right after I go off the air. I want to do Talking Atari, but I feel like I could only really do good episodes on like maybe 4. Well, but then again, I'm doing some episodes of Talking Nintendo that aren't really quote unquote good. I'm going to do it for sure at some point. At some point. Let's film some and we'll see how they go. That's another thing about these videos. I don't expect the whole Talking Nintendo thing to do well, but videos about specific games like that, sometimes they have a slow build over time. So it's like, that was a way, I'm going through a collection systematically one at a time was a way to force me to make a video about some games that I wouldn't have otherwise, like the Guardian Legend, right? I'd never played the Guardian Legend as a kid. I only have it in my collection now because my friend Engie got into collecting several years back, and he was like, hey, I got doubles of this, why don't you take it home? I don't think I've ever actually played that game, to be 100% honest with you. But you know what? I'm going to make a video on it somehow. I got it up on the shelf there. It's even in like the clump of games to make videos about next. So I'm going to have to sit down with it at some point in the near future and check it out and see what I think. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And he writes, the opposite is true for me. I never had an NES, and I only played it at other people's houses, less than I wanted. My family started with a 5200 before going on a long, probably 4 to 5 year hiatus from owning a video game console after it broke. At least we got a Game Boy in the middle. It truly felt like my first console, and that's why I defend portable gaming as legit to this day. That's cool, man. That's cool. Portable gaming is tough to defend. It's nice to hear somebody who's got like a different point of view, because I'll tell you what, man, I was a naysayer about portable gaming for a long time, especially when the PSP was big, because I looked at the PSP and I don't know, man, it seems like a great system. People sing the praises of it, but just something about the way it looked, it didn't feel like something I would ever put in my pocket and take out somewhere. But from what I understand, I'm totally alone on that. I wrote an article about that on MondoCoolcast.com, like early on when I first got on board on that site. And Jerry was like, you don't know what you're talking about in this article. It's like, you're writing about things that you don't have experience with. And he was absolutely right. That's a fact. But long story short, during that era of portable gaming, I was a big naysayer. I really was. Something about the portable systems, the bigger they make them, man. But now, in the last year, I've come around. I have. There's a lot I don't have. I don't own any modern portable gaming systems apart from a phone, but I've warmed up to the idea in a big way. So we'll see. Maybe something cool will come of it. Desm101 writes, my good buddy Desm, he writes, Pinball of the Dead is a great pinball game. Yes, it is. Big fan of the House of the Dead series as well as pinball games, and that one is very good. Recently got a DS flashcard, and you are right. There are so many good games on that system that it's worth playing the heck out of. Amen, brother. I see some awesome. You know what's a great game for the DS that I wish I'd played more is the Dark Spire. That's a very specific game for a very specific niche that I have, and it feels like the game that was made for me and absolutely no one else. The Dark Spire. That is an awesome DS game. My friend got it for me because he was like, NG got this for me years ago because he was like, oh yes, this is your game and no one else's. So he bought me a brand new copy. So that is my DS gem. I see a reply here. Yeah, I said the same thing. Oh yeah, Pokemon Soul Silver. That was a game. The only ever DS game that I bought new was Pokemon Soul Silver, which I absolutely loved. It was one of those games where the save file counts your hours. So I put in like 115 hours, I think, into that game. And then shortly after that came out was Dragon Quest IX, which I really wanted to get, but I never pulled the trigger on it. And that was Dragon Quest IX was one of the things I sorely missed out on when they shut down the internet for the DS. Is there any way to play that game online on like the 3DS? Is that a thing? I don't know. I'd like to find out. Death Adder, good buddy Death Adder, who I enjoy hearing from, writes, I don't mind $60 a year Xbox Live fee, but only because of the games with gold feature. If I didn't get those 48, ooh, you know what, guys? I just read the number 48 as 48. That's how tired I am right now. Give me a second. I'm going to back up and read that sentence again. See if I can say my numbers like a big boy. All right, here we go. If I didn't get those 48 free games a year, I'd throw feces at the Microsoft headquarters for sure. Cool to hear that you've been working out. I've been pumping iron myself lately. The next round needs to be in top shape in case Jerry the Hulk Terrifying ever goes rogue. I figure it'll take at least 6 or 7 us just to get Jerry down to one knee. Are you picking up Street Fighter the 30th Anniversary Collection? Such a great value, I might pick it up. Alright, let's see. What's on my shelf replies, that's some aim. I talked about the 30th Anniversary Collection. I'll probably end up with it eventually. I got used to some of the games on that collection. I got used to playing in weird places, like Third Strike, right? Street Fighter Third Strike. I got used to playing like the enhanced edition that's available on the PlayStation Network. As one of the early games I got on the PS3, so I know playing that in the Anniversary Collection is not going to be as good because it's not going to be like the deluxe edition. Same rings true for Street Fighter Alpha 3. I got used to playing that on the PS1, where it's got an expanded roster. And everywhere else, they just do the arcade ROM with like it's comparatively tiny roster. So Street Fighter Alpha 3 is another one. It's like a big highlight point for that game that it has Alpha 3 in it, but it's not going to be the one that I like to play. So I'll still get it eventually, but I will be hyper aware of missing characters in those games. As far as Xbox, you know what's funny? I had this weird thought. It didn't last long, but I had a weird thought to buy an Xbox One in the last week. It didn't stay with me, but it's like something about getting drawn back into Halo, and it's like, man, I wish I could jump into a game right now and talk to people. But it didn't last long. It really didn't. I found out you could get an Xbox One with a 500 gig hard drive. That's the teeny tiny hard drive. For like $230, which is not bad, which is less than it costs for the new Atari game, an Atari system. And when I did that math, it was like, suppose I just put away like $200 just to pay for Xbox Live Arcade for the next several years. I don't know. I have to look at. I'd have to really look at the situation. I can see myself not playing it enough to merit it because I just don't have the time. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there that I actually gave it some thought and considered it seriously. Because this is Xbox, and the reason I stayed away from Xbox in the 360 era was because of the red ring, and then late in the 360 era I stayed away from it because of the paying for internet. And in fact, the only reason why I have one is because I got one from Classic Elite in my short time when I was with them. But now there's no red ring anymore, and everybody charges you for internet. So maybe it's time for me to give Microsoft a try. I don't know. It's a dangerous line that I've thought about, but I don't know. I can't really justify it. We'll see. And that's it. That's the end of my YouTube comments for from the show. I've got a couple of miscellaneous comments over the past week. Desm on my Xbox pickups writes, great pickups. Just got Project Gotham Part 1 for a couple of bucks a few days ago. I never saw one of those arcade discs before. And you know what, man? Neither had I. And I haven't taken the time to put that in the machine just to see what it does. But the early Xbox Live, the Xbox Live era for the original Xbox is a total mystery to me. I never got that. I never got online with the original Xbox even one time. So I don't know. Maybe there's footage online somewhere of it on YouTube. Maybe I'll look that up one day. Maximum RD writes, jackpot. Xbox and PS2 are awesome, and yes, they are, my friend. Let's see. Anything else good? Johnny puts a comment on my how to auto mount DOS box. He writes, thank you so much. I really needed this. That's awesome, man, because I made that video years ago, and I'm so glad to hear people are still watching it and figuring stuff out. I know you probably don't listen to the podcast, but I'm going to point this out anyway. Something about auto mounting in DOSBox. I do not recommend setting it up to auto mount to the C drive, because you're going to lose the ability to drag and drop MS-DOS executables over a DOSBox shortcut. Because every time you open DOSBox, it's going to mount C already. And then when you drag and drop, it's going to try and mount C to whatever that program is in, and it won't be able to because C will already be mounted. But that's nitty-gritty DOS stuff. Anything else here? Let's see. And we go back to the big Atari stuff. Packing Peanuts. Nice games. Those crazy M Network shells. And yes, they are quite crazy. The M Network shells were a mystery to me early on. How you could use the shell of an Intellivision game and make it for the Atari 2600 is an interesting way to see how they reused parts. And I think that's it. KT Johnson writes, awesome pickups, cool shirt and tie. What's the occasion? Yeah, I have a cubicle job, so I filmed that one right after work. And I think that's about it. Alright guys, listen, whatever's got you here 1 hour and 19 minutes and 40 seconds into this jumbo-sized show, I hope your life is going good, I really do. And I know I say that a lot and it's kind of become a cliche at the end of the show to try and do some well-wishing, but I want you to know this comes from a genuine place. Alright? There's a million people out in the world that can't wait to make you feel like crap. Whenever anyone says the words, oh, just wait, I hate hearing those words. Just wait till this happens. Just wait till you crash your car. Just wait till, the neighbor's cat takes a dump on your porch. Nobody tell me just wait, because that'll get me upset. I don't want to just wait. Tell me something good. That's what I would want people to say to me, is something encouraging. So that's what I'm going to say to you. Keep hanging on. Keep doing the best you can, even when you feel like, you've had about enough, especially then. I'm rooting for you guys. Have a good week. I'll see you next Monday.